All right, let's talk about day 74. Because today, the Plasm Protocol sent a signal that honestly seems to defy all logic. We're just 4 days out from the main event, and what the market did today versus what the protocol's foundation did, well, they were complete opposites. So let's break down exactly what happened and what it means for the absolutely critical days ahead.
Okay, so here it is, the core contradiction that defined the entire day. On one hand, you have the PLAZM price dropping 13%, hitting a new all-time low of 26 cents. But, and this is the crazy part, on the other hand, the base floor, the actual bedrock of the protocol's value, went up by 10%. So how on earth can the price be falling while the foundation is actively getting stronger? That is the million-dollar question we are going to answer right now.
I mean, really, think about it. How is this even possible? How can a system see its market price hit rock bottom, but at the exact same time, its underlying foundation gets measurably stronger? The answer lies in a single, really powerful concept, and it's something that is literally built into the protocol's DNA. And that concept is anti-fragility. You might have heard the term. It describes systems that don't just, survive stress. They actually get better because of it. They feed on shocks and volatility. So instead of breaking under pressure, they become tougher, more robust. So the most important takeaway here is this. What we saw today wasn't a failure. It wasn't a crack in the armor. It was a full-on, market-driven stress test. And the data couldn't be clearer. The protocol didn't just survive the pressure. It actually used that pressure to reinforce its own defenses. Let's dig into exactly how it pulled that off. So why did the floors rise? It really came down to three powerful things all happening at once. First, and this is huge, the amount of plasm just sitting there ready to be sold basically vanished. Second, the eShare price held strong, which provided a ton of stability. And third, the protocol's burn mechanism just went into overdrive, permanently wiping out supply. The scale of this supply shock is, well, it's pretty remarkable. In just 24 hours, the amount of liquid, easily sellable plasm absolutely plummeted from over 10,500 tokens to under 7,400. That's a 30% drop in the available float, practically overnight. It created this intense scarcity almost out of thin air.
And this chart just paints the picture perfectly, doesn't it? Look at that, only 3%. A tiny 3% of the entire plasm supply is currently liquid and actually available to be sold on the market. The overwhelming majority is either locked up in staking, sitting in liquidity pools, or has been burned forever. So you're probably wondering, where did all that liquid supply go? Well, a huge chunk of it went right back into staking. We're now sitting back at a 67% staking rate, which matches the all-time high. This tells you everything you need to know about holder conviction. People responded to the price drop not by panic selling, but by locking up their tokens for the long haul. The next piece of the puzzle was the burn rate. It just accelerated. Over 1,300 tokens were destroyed today alone. That brings the grand total to over 24,500. And remember, every single token that gets burned is supply that is gone forever, which directly strengthens the floor price for everyone who's left. Now, you might look at this and see that the floor cushion tightened, right? It went from 200% down to 136%. And you might think that's a bad thing. But it is so critical to understand why it tightened. This wasn't the price crashing down towards the floor. No, this was the floor actively rising up to meet the price. That is a sign of a healthy, responsive system, not a weak one.
All of these mechanics, they all point to one simple truth. When the protocol was faced with some pretty significant market stress, its foundation got stronger, not weaker. And this has massive implications as we head into the final and most intense part of this countdown. So here's the roadmap for what's coming. We just got through day 74. In just 2 days, we face the day 76 cliff. That's the first major test of a big unlock. And then, 2 days after that, we get the main event on day 78. It's all happening very fast.
And that first real test is right around the corner. I mean, in only 2 days, the day 76 unlock is going to release over 175,000 tokens into the system. What happened today wasn't just some random interesting event. It was the absolute perfect dress rehearsal for the pressure that is about to arrive. And here is the beautiful silver lining of that price drop. At the peak price, the day 78 unlock represented over $2.1 million of potential sell pressure. That's a huge number.
But at today's price of 26 cents, that pressure is down to just over $600,000. That is a staggering 72% reduction in the dollar value risk, which makes the whole event so much more manageable for the protocol's defenses.
So let's just run through the final verdict for day 74. The protocol proved it could actually raise its floors while underselling pressure. The sellable supply collapsed by a third in one day. Holder conviction drove staking right back to its all-time highs. And, crucially, the dollar risk for the main event was slashed by nearly 3/4. It was a textbook display of strength. To put it as simply as possible, the protocol got tested today, and it didn't just pass, it leveled up. It came out of the stress stronger than it was when it went in. And that, right there, is the very definition of an anti-fragile system. The big question now is, can it do it again when the real test arrives in just 2 days? We are definitely going to be watching.